Thank you, Bill, and good morning once again.
Good morning.
Thank you for the break. We all appreciate that. So actually, I had the opportunity to meet with many of you last night. It was a great opportunity and a great event. So perhaps by way of reintroduction, my name is Judy O'Hagan. My day job is I head up human resources for the United States for Sanofi Aventis. I'm based in Bridgewater, New Jersey. But my most recent passion and hobby is serving as the chair for the CEO Cancer Gold Standard Task Force. And am I supposed to wait till this is done before I start talking? All right, we'll talk. And we heard last night that this is the first time for a number of you in the room. We have some first-timers here. And it's actually the first time for me as well. Just about a year ago, at the invitation of Bill Weldon, I did agree to chair the CEO Cancer Gold Standard Task Force, and it has been such an honor and a privilege to work with so many fantastic people in our organization. So I'm delighted to be here today. I understand that for those of you who were here last year, we got the report from this task force that we had actually doubled our covered lives and reached the $1 million mark. The $1 million mark. The million lives mark. And I think there was great appreciation for that accomplishment. And I understand shortly after congratulating the task force for reaching the 1 million lives mark, Bill or somebody said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could double that? And then I think quickly Bill said, well, actually, we should triple that goal and let's hit the 3 million lives mark. Now, just in the spirit of full disclosure, I hadn't heard that before I accepted the role as the task force chair. But I would have done so anyway. We love a challenge. So I'm pleased here to be today to report on the work of the team in 2010, to share with you our progress, but also our plans going forward. So as you see from this wonderful montage, we had many employers joining the fold in 2010. In fact, we had 35 more employers join the Gold Standard Task Force, to become accredited since we were together here last year. And I'm also pleased to say that in addition to the members who have joined us, we have a number of clear CEO commitments and applications in process. So we have a very high level of confidence that these numbers will continue to grow. What you see on the slide here is a visual picture of how we've grown over the last couple of years. The blue bar indicating companies in our fold, and the red bar indicating employee lives covered. What I'd like to point out before we go through the numbers, a very important development here as well, is we do have a number of smaller companies who have joined our ranks. Nonprofits, retail, family-owned businesses. And this is important for a couple of reasons, but not the least of which is we know that more than half of all U.S. employees work in small companies, in small businesses. And in fact, we now have representation in some 25 states. So this is really fantastic because when you think about the work that we do, there are no small businesses, there are no small people. These are people's lives that we're covering. So we're really pleased, and we're going to continue to work with both large and small employers. So this is kind of a visual picture. Let's get to the numbers. See there. So here you see here. So what you see here is we have, in fact, once again doubled our covered lives above the 2 million live mark. And we now have 76 employers who have been accredited with the gold standard. So I have to say and confess I'm just a little disappointed that we didn't reach the 3 million mark. But mostly what I am is proud. I'm hugely proud of the work that the group has done, and happy to share with you how we got there, and more importantly, what we plan to keep doing. So we appreciate that you have set the bar high for us, and we will continue to work aggressively work towards that goal.
And doubling means 5 million this year.
I knew that was coming. I thought it was going to be at the end. So we'll make a note. Thank you. So before we go into a little bit about what the task force did, just how we got there, we came together, I believe it was in February or March of last year, and we had our first planning session. We felt it was very important to be very focused on what we needed to do to achieve this high goal. We took a look at what had gone on in the past, what worked. We looked at the current picture and our future aspirations, and we actually came up with a very simple two-pronged strategy, 2 pillars, if I can borrow that metaphor. So the 2 pillars for our work have been, and will continue in large measure to be, these 2. One is CEO to CEO outreach. As we've heard, and as Chris mentioned before the break, it is not possible to do this without CEO commitment. So a huge part of our work has been, and will be continue to be, to leverage and enhance the role of CEO to CEO outreach. The second pillar of our strategy was to provide meaningful and rich tools and resources and support for 3 critical junctures in this whole process: pre-accreditation, upon accreditation, and post-accreditation. Those are 3 very separate junctures, all requiring different kinds of support. And the second pillar of our strategy was to drive home meaningful resources to make sure that that happens. So you see our results here, and I'll talk you through a little bit the accomplishments we've had in the 2 pillars. The first is CEO to CEO outreach, and I would say that the importance of this cannot be overstated. Not only is it really important in most companies, in some companies it simply will not happen without the support of the CEO. And we've been so fortunate to have so many of you in the room, so many of the CEOs who we support be personally involved in our outreach. And I know it had a huge impact on some of the doubling effect you saw on my prior slide. And quite simply, one of the key ways that our program has grown is through CEO involvement. We have a lot of great examples. We have the famous 40,000 pin example, so we thank you so much, Dr. Mohapatra, for that. That's a great story. We have a number of other great stories to share. This year, several of our members took very personal time and effort to become involved in this outreach. Whether it was Dr. Victor Zhao, we heard of this morning, hosting a breakfast at Duke. Many of you, whether it was Jim Goodnight, Ed Hanway, Bob Ingram, writing to other CEO colleagues. Another example is CEOs partnering together, like my CEO, Greg Irace, with Ron Williams at Aetna, partnering together to reach out to other professional associations like the Health Leadership Council. So these are just a few examples. We have many more, but all of these efforts have really been a hallmark and an impetus to our increased visibility, but also the traction and the impetus we need to get these applications going. So this will continue to be a pillar for us, the CEO to CEO outreach, and you can count on hearing from us in that regard. The second pillar is all around this notion of support for organizations as they go through the accreditation process. And I was very new to this, and I remember thinking, well, that sounds so simple. You have to help people through the process. And once they're accredited, you have to help them educate and be proud and aware. And we found that quite simply, this was not well understood or well done. So what our task force did is we unearthed the barriers pre, during, and post, and found some ways to really make sure we are doing whatever we can to make it easy to apply and be accepted. So the first thing is all about pre-accreditation. And what we learned is that it's sometimes difficult to make the case. And so what our task force accomplished last year is we compiled tools and resources, reasons to believe, and these were put together in a nice one-stop shop toolkit. So as we approached CEOs or potential member companies, we had a very concise and compelling toolkit that they could look to say, why would we do this? And I think this is something we'll continue to do. The other thing we did by way of the pre-accreditation is many times the people working on these programs are HR folks or benefit specialists, and we adopted somewhat of a buddy system. We would call one another to say, we had this obstacle when we were going through this at Sanofi Aventis. Here's what we did. So working together through the process to ensure that obstacles were understood and overcome based on the experiences that we had had as a team. And just a simple best practice, we know that best practice sharing is always critical. A simple best practice we had is at our last meeting, we've introduced a gold standard publication that really focuses on the benefits, but also the ROI of doing this. So our task force is continuing to work with all of our partners to do whatever we can to help them make the case to go for the gold in their companies. A great example of this, I would be remiss by not pointing out, is we have Dr. Len Berry with us here today. Len was here last year, and I think you all know of his December article in last December HBR, where he made a really compelling case about the value of workplace wellness programs, and pointed out the gold standard as a signature effort. So I had the great pleasure of sitting with Len at dinner last night. We also learned we're closet college basketball fans, and he was kind enough to help me watch Marquette beat UConn in overtime on my BlackBerry, so I do appreciate that. Thank you, Len. So once you receive your accreditation, what do you do when you get the gold? Again, another surprise. We found that some companies, after working so hard and going through the rigorous process of getting the gold standard, didn't really publicize this. or didn't really help the employees understand the value and the benefit, not just of the gold standard, but what that represents, what their companies have done to ensure wellness and prevention. So we've worked with our companies to ensure that once they receive the accreditation, they are doing everything they can at their disposal to showcase, make it visible, share with the employees, heighten pride and awareness. And this has been terrific because best practice sharing here comes in so very well. As we've learned, other companies have done things with banners and seals and logos. We share with one another, and that really helps accelerate the effort to help employees feel the pride of the achievement of their companies in going for the gold. So you get the gold standard. People are very excited about it. What do you do post-accreditation? Our task force calls this the live and breathe part of the gold standard. What can we be doing as organizations to ensure that the gold standard is not just the seal on the door, well, that's important, and not just the banner, but in addition to the visibility, do the employees truly understand the value of the programs? Do we have a company culture that allows us to really leverage the programs and the offerings of wellness? Do we have the kind of outreach support we need to keep the gold standard available to other employers? So this is a project that's well underway, and we've been really so very fortunate to have the help of Publicis with this, because what we know is branding is everything. You can have a lot of great stuff, but if it's not well packaged and well understood, if they don't know, it ain't so. So my Italian is not so good, so I can't call on him as you did last night, Marta, but he is the amazing ad man. So I'm going to ask Nick to just talk a little bit about the visibility efforts post-accreditation.
As you all know, we're a newly accredited company, and we made it very personal. We want to make this a living, breathing part of our organization, and we were searching for ways to do that beyond the one-off, the big ceremony that we have when we celebrate the certificate that goes up. So, like Judy said, we're a company of ad men, and may I add, a lot of ad women.
There you go.
These days, it's not like it was 50 years ago, and nor should it be. And really, we believe, we understand that bonds are created towards a cause, a commitment, a company, a brand, when those bonds go beyond the rational and go and touch you emotionally. That's how brands, commitments really endure. So we're thrilled when the Roundtable, Judy, her team asked us to work together with them to help create that type of emotional connection to this great honor that is bestowed on all of us, or we're a part of, in an organization to help make it more real and viable and living for our employees. And over the next several months, you're going to get a chance to see how some of this is pulled together by some of the best thinking of the organizations that have now achieved this, as well as some new and different ideas that we'll have to create that stronger bond.
And we're so appreciative of the very special expertise that Nick and his team have brought to this effort. I think in your packets, do people have this, Peggy, in the packet? In your packets, what you'll see, it's a little bit of a sneak preview, if you will, is what does this post-accreditation guide consist of, and how people will be enabled through the website to pull down, based on their customized needs, the kinds of tools or support or visibility outreach that they need. So it'll be really easy and handy and highly professional for people to really make use of the post-accreditation guide. So special thanks to Nick and his team for that. One more example before we move to what's ahead. I'm probably going to click through. These are a few examples of what we might expect to see in the post-accreditation guide. One last one. We have all sorts of fun stuff. Okay. So this comes under the category of breaking new ground, although it's not even on ground, it's in the sea. I think we heard mention of this. We had a really exciting introduction to what could be, I think, a real breakthrough as it relates to our mission with the gold standard, an opportunity to perhaps bring the gold standard to our armed services. And we had a really wonderful and exciting opportunity to exchange on this topic. And I'm going to ask Bill Winkenritter to talk a little bit about what we might expect to see and hope to see with CVN 77.
CVN 77, USS George H.W. Bush, achieved the gold standard rank and recognition. Marty and Bill Weldon and I had the honor and privilege of visiting the ship in December. It was a terrific experience, even for a guy who'd served 6 years as the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs. I'd been on a carrier, but never landed on a carrier or taken off from a carrier. And that alone was quite an experience. But we saw a lot. It was really a thrill for all of us. And it was a tribute to Captain Chip Miller and his senior medical officer to my left, Captain Lee Mandel, Dr. Lee Mandel. And Lee will say a word or two in just a moment. The long and the short is that after a lot of work, unfortunately, we're not able to, and the committee is not yet able to give that recognition as a gold standard employer because the ship's not fully tobacco free. Everything else has been met, and there are active tobacco cessation programs ongoing on the ship. They made really great strides, and if you looked at what the ship does in terms of its prevention efforts, you'd be proud, and proud of all the other things as well. But it's worth noting that there is a unique circumstance there on the ship and on any Navy ship, and that is it's both a work environment and a home environment. It is where people live. And as you know, the gold standard requires that the workplace be tobacco-free, but gold standard employers do not enforce no smoking at homes of their employees. And so that creates a real challenge. So these are men and women who are at sea, at work, and living. So having said that, we want to help the CVN 77 get to that next level, and we engaged in a very productive discussion with Dr. Mandel and with the captain and others about approaching this from a starting point of eliminating tobacco sales on the ship, especially cigarettes, and so unfortunately we're in a command change right now, and Captain Miller will be stepping down in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and a new Captain Luther, who Lee tells me his wife is a physician. So maybe that will give us some reason for optimism, but we're going to have to work with a new captain. And our goal really is to work and to get sponsorship and support on the ship, and then actually to go up the line, so to speak, to the senior levels in the Navy and then at the Department of Defense, and especially to my good friend Mike Mullen, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who is a Navy man himself, who I believe, I don't want to step out too far here, but I believe he would be supportive to the idea to taking some risk in doing at least a pilot. And if they could do this, it would really send an incredible signal across the whole Navy, across the whole armed forces. We did get a bit of good news just recently hearing that all the submarines are now smoke-free. And interesting that over 50% of the submariner sailors were smokers. So they have a huge challenge right now to get all of them on smoking cessation, and they're doing that. So it can be done. And so our goal is to continue to work with CVN 77 and with Lee and his successor and Captain Miller and his successor. So with that, that's our report. Our bottom line is we're going to keep trying, we're going to keep working, and we are going to get a result one way or another, a good result. So with that, just had a pressure on Captain Mandel. Do you want to make any comment?
About 2 years ago, I got contacted by Marty introducing the concept of CEO Cancer Gold Standard. And at first I thought, well, this is a civilian type-oriented organization. We have some unique challenges. For example, our numerators, denominators, patient population change literally every day when people rotate in, rotate out. Our CEO, he changes every roughly 2 years. It's not an easy thing to pin down. We have cultural things we're overcoming, but when I actually wrote back to Marty, I said, well, I'm an internist, I'm a preventive medicine guy. This is really kind of intrigued me. And also, I never told them this, but I'm also a cancer survivor, 13 years cancer-free. So it had a lot of personal interest in my book, and we decided to proceed on. We knew we were having some pretty unique challenges, and as far as the 5 pillars, 4 out of the 5 pillars, we knocked it out of the park, because this is sort of what we do in the military, screening. It's part of our culture. We don't give people choices. You will get screened. Access to cancer trials. Through our naval hospitals, we have access to the finest trials going. Physical fitness. You know, this, at my age, I'm running on a treadmill 4 times a week because this is what we do. We really have a lot of great stuff that really fits in well with CEO Cancer Gold Standard. The thing we're working is the tobacco issue. You know, we have to temper that with the fact my first ship 20 years ago, well, 25 years ago actually, I remember them calling way over the 1MC, which is a loudspeaker system. The smoking lamp is lit throughout the ship. People would light up in the wardroom, in their workspaces and all that. Well, it's changed a lot. We have it restricted now to outdoor smoking sponsons. Is that enough? No, it's not. It's really not enough. The president said bold and venturesome, and it's time for the military to get bold and venturesome. We cannot sustain the debt, if you will, of trying to take care of people in my age group who've been smoking for 40 years and pretend it's not a problem. So I don't plan to say, gee, we didn't make it. Yeah, we didn't make it, but we ain't done yet. So, and I thank you for allowing me to be part of this. Has been one of the greatest experiences of my career, to be affiliated with a group like this, to get people like Bill and Marty out on our ship, show my rather benign, uninteresting workplace, which is on top of 2 nuclear reactors and under 85 aircraft. It's no different from any other practice I've been in. It's been an honor, and we're going to continue working. Thank you very much.
And Lee is going to be the chief medical officer of the command that to which the ship reports, so he's going to be involved.
Fantastic. So obviously a tremendous opportunity, and I know our task force are really excited about this, as everyone in the room must be. So we look forward to working with you on that, and it's a wonderful opportunity. So thank you. So I would say, in summary, looking at 2010, the year we think was a great year. The group has a very clear strategy with 2 focus areas. We've been working those focus areas hard, and we'll continue to do so. By having that strategy, we achieved 76 companies now in our fold and over 2 million lives. As we look ahead, first of all, I would say is, and I'm looking at Peggy like, are you checking your BlackBerry? Do we get any yeses today? We have a couple of really exciting potential members in the queue. So we're very, very excited about commitments that are coming soon. So we'll continue to do that. But as we look ahead, what are we going to do as a task force? Well, we're going to continue to do what works. We think we've got a pretty good formula with some of this stuff. So we will continue our CEO to CEO outreach. Absolutely. We'll leverage that with vendors and partners and customers. We're going to take a look at best practice sharing, and certainly make sure that our accredited companies have the tools they need to make the programs more visible internally and externally. But we're not going to just stick with things that have worked for us before. We're going to absolutely improve and expand in a couple of areas. I think the conversation this morning with Nancy Ann was terrific. I mean, obviously, this is a landscape, healthcare, that is moving so quickly. So we will be certainly dedicated to make sure we are doing our research, staying abreast of the changes, and making sure we are understanding what's going on in the healthcare arena, such that if we need to amend or revise or enhance our programmatic elements, we are ahead of that curve. Really exciting. We are also looking to take the gold standard global. We know that, unfortunately, cancer does not know geographic borders, and it is not a U.S. issue. So while we have our eyes fairly on the ball here to reach our goal, we are beginning to explore opportunities to take the gold standard global. And Fick Isaac from J&J is here with us today. He is currently leading a sub-team of folks from the Gold Standard Task Force. They've done some research. They've got some preliminary ideas on how we may begin to do this. And I think you'll see in the near term, companies like maybe a J&J, maybe a Sanofi Aventis, taking some steps to see how we can take this global, and hopefully laying the groundwork for all organizations to understand what this would look like and how can we do this. So we'll report back to you on that in the future. I speak on behalf of the team, but certainly myself, that you have our commitment to continue the fight, continue the cause, and when we come back next year, you will continually be impressed, and we will now go for the $5 million bill, not the 3. Thank you very much.
Judy, could you just remain there at the podium for a moment, please? On behalf of all of us here in this room, and all of your teammates. You know that you are in our thoughts and prayers, as is your family at this time.
Thank you.
And that because it now is even more important as it is in the memory of your dear father, that you now are consecrating your work. So also we have an opportunity, no, I would say a responsibility, to see that red bar increase in height, and then, which is the number of employees benefiting directly by the CEO Cancer Gold Standard, and to see the blue bar increase proportionally also in height, as there are new companies, new CEOs who have signed that cover sheet that says, I am responsible. And that's how this lapel pin gets there, by the gold standard accreditation. I'd ask each of us, in fact, each of you, to think who you have brought to this table in the last 12 months. Which CEO have you spoken with? What HR executive have you discussed the round table and the gold standard with? What part of that red and blue bar can you take pardonable pride in having achieved? If, as I suspect, there are amongst us some who have not yet accomplished that, that is a task, that is a responsibility that I encourage each of you to take into your heart, write a note down and say at least one new company you're going to have an impression upon such that they're going to embrace the CEO Cancer Gold Standard. And in doing so, you'll know that not just bars have increased in height, but lives will have been lengthened, and lives, in fact, will have been saved. Promise yourselves you'll do that before you leave today. Judy, in appreciation for all that you have done, and as Bill has said, the special brand of Marquette Warrior enthusiasm to which you bring your dedication, our executive director, John Dornan, who's now sneaking up on your left, is going to present to you an acknowledgement of our love and of our gratitude.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy O'Hagan.
Oh, you're the best, John. Thank you. Thank you very much. My goodness.
Thanks, Judy, and 5 million shouldn't be a problem.